Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching The World Report. Let's first take a look at the headlines. The FBI has named a 42-year-old war veteran as the attacker who killed at least 15 people in New Orleans. Shamsuddin Jabbar is not thought to have worked alone. An ISIS flag was attached to the truck that was used in the attack. Officers are investigating a Cybertruck explosion outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. The rented vehicle was filled with fuel and firework explosives, killing the driver and injuring others. Israel has reportedly bombed a so-called humanitarian zone in southern Gaza. Meanwhile, Palestinian authorities have banned Al Jazeera from operating in the West Bank. A Russian drone strike has hit central Kyiv, killing 2 people. This comes as President Volodymyr Zelensky hails one of Moscow's biggest defeats as Gazprom gas is halted from entering Europe through Ukraine. US President Joe Biden linked the New Year's Day Bourbon Street attack, which killed 15 and injured 35, to ISIS. He urged caution as the investigation continues. The suspect, 42-year-old US Army vet Shamsuddin Jabbar, rammed a truck into a crowd and fired at officers. Jabbar rented the vehicle through Turo, which was also used in a recent Las Vegas explosion. Here is the full report.
I say, our hearts are with the people of New Orleans after the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours. To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know, I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you.
President Biden alleged the New Year's Day attack on Bourbon Street, which killed 15 and injured 35, was ISIS-inspired. He urged law enforcement to avoid rushing to conclusions as the investigation continues.
The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
The suspect, identified as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. Army veteran from Texas, rammed his truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street at 3:15 a.m. CST, then opened fire on law enforcement officers. Jabbar rented the vehicle through Turo, a platform that allows car owners to rent their cars. Turo confirmed that their platform was used for this rental and also in a recent vehicle explosion in Las Vegas. The FBI has launched searches in Houston and New Orleans, looking for further evidence linking Jabbar to the attack.
Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle. Other potential IEDs were also located in the French Quarter. As of now, 2 IEDs have been found and rendered safe.
The FBI is continuing its efforts to render any remaining IEDs in the area safe and determine the full scope of Jabbar's affiliations. Among the victims of the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans are a prominent football player, a young aspiring nurse, and a mother of a 4-year-old. Their families are sharing their identities ahead of the official post-mortem results. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Suspect Jabbar was reportedly an army veteran who was allegedly inspired by the Islamic State group. Here's what we know about the suspect.
In the early hours of New Year's Day, 15 people were killed and at least 35 injured in a deadly attack. A man named Shamsuddin Jabbar, inspired by the Islamic State group, drove into large crowds in New Orleans, Louisiana. Here's what we know about the suspect. Shamsud, the 42-year-old assailant, is an Army veteran and a U.S. citizen from Texas. A flag associated with the Islamic State group was found in the vehicle he was driving during the attack. At present, the FBI is investigating what affiliations Jabbar may have had with the terrorist group. According to a now-removed LinkedIn profile, Jabbar had worked in various roles in the U.S. Army, including human resources and IT, before he was discharged. Jabbar was deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010. In a YouTube video posted in 2020, Jabbar said his time in the military had taught him the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch.
With the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've taken those skills and applied them to my career as a real estate agent.
Jabbar studied at Georgia State University from 2015 to 2017, graduating with a degree in computer information systems. He was married twice. His first marriage ended in 2012 and his second lasted from 2017 to 2022. He also appears to have worked in real estate, holding a license that expired in 2021. He had a criminal record relating to traffic offenses and theft. Further investigation will reveal whether Jabbar carried out the attack alone, or there are more people involved. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll stay in North America for more of the latest news updates. US President-elect Donald Trump linked Wednesday's deadly New Orleans attack to illegal immigration. Trump claimed that the nation's crime rate is at a level that nobody has ever seen. He said, "When I said that criminals are coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in this country, it turned out to be true." Protesters in New York gathered, holding up signs reading "Black Lives Matter" and "Justice for Robert Brooks." This comes days after a video of the black inmate's fatal beating at Bay Correctional Officers released. Robert Brooks, a 43-year-old man serving a 12-year sentence, died in the early hours of December the 10th last year. As per the reports, he was beaten by at least 3 officers at Marcy Correctional Facility. The woman who was killed when a man intentionally set fire to her has been identified as Debrina Kawam. Police said the 57-year-old woman resided in New Jersey. It was reported earlier that a man set her on fire while she was sleeping on a New York City subway. The New York City Office of Medical Examiner determined the woman died by homicide caused by thermal injuries and smoke inhalation. The Sugar Bowl, a major US college football playoff game, has been postponed for one day. This follows the deadly truck ramming attack in New Orleans. The match drew almost tens of thousands of fans to the stadium. The game, originally scheduled for Wednesday evening, will now begin on Thursday at 3 p.m. local time. 22-year-old Wendy Pamela Bailey from Alabama has been arrested after informing investigators that her missing 1-year-old son's body was kept in a storage shed. The discovery followed a tragic accident in which a man named Stephen Bradley Collins and his 2-year-old daughter Riley were killed. The couple's 1-year-old child, Caleb Rowan Collins, had been unaccounted for until Bailey's statement. An independent journalist from Cuba accused state security authorities on Tuesday of forcing him into exile because of his work and social media posts. Jose Luis Estrada, the journalist, wrote that state security forced him to leave Cuba in extreme circumstances. There was no official comment from Cuban authorities. A gunman in Montenegro has killed 10 people in a rampage, one of the country's worst ever mass shootings. Identified as Alexander Martinovic, he attacked multiple locations before dying of self-inflicted injuries. Officials promise tighter gun control as the nation mourns. Here's the latest.
According to police, a gunman has killed at least 10 people in a rampage on a small town in Montenegro. This is considered one of the tiny Balkan nation's worst mass killings. Official reports said the suspect had a history of illegal weapons possession. Police had earlier deployed special teams and anti-terrorism units to find the gunman around Cetinje, a valley town surrounded by rugged hills about 38 kilometers west of the Montenegrin capital Podgorica. The gunman, identified by police as a 45-year-old man, Aleksandar Martinovic, opened fire at a restaurant in Cetinje on Wednesday, where he killed 4 people. After committing the crime, he left for an unknown location, further committing crimes in 3 different locations.
Nakon ovog izvršenog krivičnog djela na prvom licu mjesta, lice se udaljilo u nepoznatom pravcu da bi na 3 za sada utvrđene lokacije izvršilo krivična djela gdje je lišilo života porodicom također Martinović, lišilo života člana svoje porodice i lišilo života 2 maloljetne djece starosti 10 i 13 godina.
He attempted to kill 4 other people, who were immediately transferred to the clinical center in Podgorica. As per the recent information, their lives are out of danger now. The country's Interior Minister Danilo Saranovic said that Martinovic died succumbing to his injuries on Thursday after attempting suicide following the shootings.
Nalazi I možemo da kažemo da je akcija uspješno izvršena, dakle ovo lice je bilo izolovano od strane ekspresnog djelovanja policijskih službenika I onog trenutka kada je vidjelo da se nalazi u bezizlaznoj situaciji, ovo lice je pokušalo da izvrši samoubistvo.
Montenegrin Prime Minister Milojko Spajic called the shootings a terrible tragedy and declared 3 days of national mourning in the country of 605,000 people.
Također, pooštrit ćemo kriterijume držanja oružja. Sutra ćemo imati vjerovatno Vijeće za nacionalnu bezbjednost gdje ćemo razmotriti sve modulacije, čak I potpunu zabranu oružja I to dolazi u obzir.
In light of this tragedy, he also called for a re-evaluation of who should be entrusted with firearm possession in the country. Bureau Report, NewsX.
We'll stay in Europe for more latest news from across the continent. The British government has announced new laws to impose severe curbs on suspected people smugglers. This move is part of its intensified efforts to combat illegal migration and bolster border security. According to the government's statement, those suspected have been subjected to travel bans and social media blackouts. Also, restrictions on phone usage have been imposed to help dismantle organised immigration crime networks. Smokers in Milan have risked being fined for lighting up on the city streets or crowded public areas. This comes after the country's toughest ban came into effect on Wednesday. The new regulations aim to create a healthier and cleaner environment for residents and visitors alike. Those who defy the new prohibition in the polluted northern Italian city could be fined between 40 and €240. Pope Francis has ushered in the new year with a renewed appeal for the faithful to reject abortion. He called for a firm commitment to protect and respect life from conception to natural death. He celebrated New Year's Day Mass in St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday, dedicated to Mary. In his homily, he prayed that everyone learns to care for every child born of a woman and protect the precious gift of life. 7 migrants have been rescued, but at least 20 remain missing after their boat sank en route to Italy from Libya. This was confirmed by the mayor of the Italian island Lampedusa. Among those saved is an 8-year-old Syrian boy who had been hoping to join his father in Germany. Renewable energy production rose to a record high in Portugal last year, according to the country's grid operator. Natural gas consumption fell to a 20-year low last year as the country installed more solar panels. In a statement, the operator said renewables granted 71% of Portugal's electricity last year. It increased from 61% the previous year. Agnes Coletti, a Holocaust survivor and the oldest living Olympic medal winner, has died at the age of 103. She was hospitalised in critical condition with pneumonia on Christmas Day. She won a total of 10 Olympic medals in gymnastics, including 5 golds for Hungary at the 1952 Helsinki Games and 1956 Melbourne Games. It has just been a day in the new year and the Russia-Ukraine crisis has deepened. Russia launched fresh drone attacks that killed 2 in Kyiv. On the other hand, Moscow's monopoly over Europe's energy market has come to an end with a halt in gas exports. How did the events uncover? Let's find out.
Russia launched a New Year's Day drone strike on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv. The attack killed 2 people, wounding at least 6 others and damaging buildings in 2 districts. Explosions boomed across the morning sky as Ukraine's Air Force warned of incoming drones, and Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said air defenses were repelling an enemy attack. The National Bank of Ukraine said that one of its buildings nearby had been damaged by debris from a downed drone. Enraged President Volodymyr Zelensky said, even on New Year's Eve, Russia was only concerned about how to hurt Ukraine. On the same day, Russian gas exports via Soviet-era pipelines running through Ukraine came to a halt, marking the end of decades of Moscow's dominance over Europe's energy markets. The halt in the gas, flowing despite the 3 years of war, came after Ukraine refused to renew a transit agreement. The widely expected stoppage will not impact prices for consumers in the European Union. The last remaining EU buyers of Russian gas via Ukraine, such as Slovakia and Austria, have arranged alternative supply. However, the breakaway Moldovan region of Transnistria is in an energy crisis after the agreement. Country's pro-Moscow leader Vadim Krasnoselsky said,
Год начинается от оперативного штаба. Начался непросто. Да, конечно, есть проблема. Есть отключение газа от потребителей в Приднестровье. Ну что ж, мы к этому по большому счету были готовы.
Reacting to the decision, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed it as Moscow's biggest defeat in a social media post. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now look at some latest updates from across the world of business. Chinese EV maker BYD reported a surge in sales. It delivered over 207,000 vehicles in December and 1.76 million in 2024 as a whole. Subsidies and discounts boosted demand as BYD challenged Tesla for the top global EV seller spot. Tesla, which narrowly led in the last quarter, will release its quarterly sales figures later on Thursday. Asia's manufacturing sector ended 2024 on a subdued note as trade risks grew under President-elect Donald Trump. December's manufacturing data revealed slowing activity in South Korea and China. Meanwhile, Taiwan and Southeast Asia saw some improvements. Trump's tariff plans on imports from key trading partners could impact global trade and exporting nations. The Alibaba Group announced plans to sell its 78.7% stake in Sun Art Retail Group to DCP Capital for 12.3 billion Hong Kong dollars, equivalent to 1.58 billion US dollars. Acquired in 2020 for nearly double that, the hypermarket chain was part of Alibaba's strategy to integrate its digital platforms with Sun Art's extensive retail network across China. Macau's casino revenue rose 23.9% in 2024 to $28.35 billion. It exceeded the government's forecast but is still below 2019's pre-pandemic of over $36 billion. December saw a 2% year-on-year decline, the year's only drop. This highlighted the need for economic diversification in the gambling-dependent nation. Malaysia's communications regulator granted licences to WeChat and TikTok under a new law aiming to tackle cybercrime. The law requires platforms with over 8 million users to obtain a licence by January the 1st. Telegram is close to completing its application, while Meta has started its licensing process for Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. China's factory activity grew modestly in December, with the Caixin and S&P global PMI slipping from 50.5 to 51.5, below forecasts of 51.7. Falling exports orders and trade concerns dampened sales. Official data showing slowed manufacturing growth, with US-China trade tensions expected under Trump. Calls for stimulus to boost growth are intensifying. The Palestinian Authority halts Al Jazeera's broadcasts, accusing the network of incitement. Meanwhile, Gaza endures relentless violence as Israeli strikes claim dozens of lives. Here's a report on the escalating tensions and the uncertainty in the region.
The Palestinian Authority has temporarily suspended the operations of Qatar's Al Jazeera television in Palestinian territories, including its broadcasts. The decision, made by the Culture, Interior and Communications ministers, comes in response to what they describe as the dissemination of inciting material. No specific end date has been provided for this temporary halt. They accused Al Jazeera of broadcasting content that is deceptive and stirs strife. This follows recent criticism of the network's coverage of the ongoing standoff between Palestinian security forces and militant fighters in the Jenin camp. In response, Al Jazeera has condemned the decision, calling it an attempt to hinder its reporting on events in the occupied territories. The network has urged the Palestinian Authority to rescind the decision and allow its journalists to report freely without intimidation. The suspension is not expected to affect operations in Hamas-controlled Gaza, where the Palestinian Authority does not hold authority. Meanwhile, Israel's army bombs the so-called humanitarian zone of al-Mawasi in southern Gaza, killing at least 12 Palestinians, as other deadly attacks continue throughout the Strip, with at least 32 dead so far.
صحيت على صوت الانفجار. هذا الانفجار زعقت على أبنائي وهم نيام، لم أحد يجيب فيهم الثلاثة، فكانوا شهداء على الفور ودماؤهم ملطخة في مكان نومهم.
Will there be an end to this war? Remains to be seen. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Let's now head to the Indo-Pacific region for more of the latest news. South Korean police raided the offices of Jeju Air and the operator of Muan International Airport. This came as they stepped up a probe into the fatal crash of a Boeing that killed 179 people. Authorities carried out search and seizure operations at Muan Airport, where Flight 2216 crashed. Jeju Air's chief executive, Kim E-bae, has also been banned from leaving the country as the investigation continues. China said it was shocked by the car ramming attack in New Orleans that killed at least 15 people and wounded dozens more. Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Mao Ning said that China always opposes any violent and terrorist acts targeting civilians. She added that Beijing had not received any reports of Chinese casualties from the country's embassy in the United States. The Fiji government said that police were investigating incidents involving 2 crew members of an Australian airline, Virgin Australia. These were allegedly victims of rape and theft in Nadi in the early hours of New Year's Day. Police said the investigation so far had found some crew members had gone to a nightclub in Nadi. The crew members were in Fiji on a layover before flying off the following day. Virgin, which said it was aware of the alleged incidents, has sent people to Fiji to provide support. Indian authorities have moved hundreds of tons of hazardous waste from Bhopal. The waste had remained for more than 40 years after the world's deadliest industrial disaster struck the city. Around a dozen trucks began carrying the waste sealed inside containers, and with a police escort, it was taken to the disposal site nearly 225 kilometres away at Pithampur. The order to clear the waste was made in December after the 40th anniversary of the disaster. President Yoon Suk-yeol was last month impeached by lawmakers over his ill-fated martial law declaration investigation, probing him over insurrection, have the warrant to detain him. But rival camps of South Korean protesters faced off in chaotic scenes outside the presidential compound. Some of them were trying to protect the impeached president inside from arrest, whereas others called for his immediate detention. A submarine drone suspected to be from China was recovered in waters off the central Philippines. 3 fishermen found the drone on Monday around 6 miles off the coast of San Pascual. The yellow drone, marked HY-119, was found floating at sea before being turned over to authorities. The police report listed potential national security implications as one significance of its recovery. That is all we have time for. We'll be back with more of your latest breaking news updates from across the world.